Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show today. We are doing a live co-stream to both the Radical Democracy Show and Raise Fist Media. Kahmali here from Radical Democracy, Kwame here with you from Raise Fist Media. And we are just here today to talk about what is now a trend going around in around social media right now. And it's spawned off of TikTok and is this absurd thing that's really just what is pretty clearly a transphobic op, and we just want to make sure that we call attention to it, call it out. It's BS. We'll try to make it quick for you, run through this ridiculous, absurd thing, not give it too much time because it doesn't deserve too much of our time beyond just debunking the nonsensical claims that it tries to make. And so we'll just jump right into it, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll try to move through it quickly for you. All right. So first things first, I'll just to show you where this spawned from. Essentially, there's this trending right now. There's this term super straight has been trending on Twitter, and around other social media platforms. And so, wanted to show you where is this coming from? What is this all about? And why we should reject this nonsense outright. So to get you started on this and just to sort of, orient you on the conversation, we'll play a clip of this, the person that started this trend essentially on TikTok saying what what their claim is to this term, super straight. All right. So here's a look at that, and then we'll discuss here. Okay.
Yo guys, I made a new sexuality now, actually. It's called super straight, okay? Since straight people or straight men as myself, I get called transphobic because I wouldn't date a trans woman. They're like, would you date a trans woman? I'm like, no, why? That's a female. No, like, that's not a real woman to me. Like, I want real woman. No, you're just transphobic. So now I'm super straight. I only date the opposite gender women that are born women. So you can't say I'm transphobic now because that's just my sexuality,
Okay, so I mean, right out of the gate, just, he says, does it, he dates real women, so what, before we dive fully into it, I'll just want to point out a few other parts of this to make really clear what's going on here, and then we'll dive in and we'll discuss some more. And anything you want to say, just immediate thoughts on his comments there, Kwame, like.
buddy, no, God, I want to go in, but the context is needed. Plus, we have a friend. He's not actually a friend. We don't know him, but somebody else who responded in such a beautiful way that I want to let that all get out the way before I get to air out this knucklehead and his little jumper honors of this.
Yep, absolutely. So to give the further context of this, I think that this. A commenter on Twitter. He's a Scottish actor, producer, director, and his name is David Paisley. And I think that he did all the basic legwork that needs to be done, all the investigative work that needs to be done here. And it took all of 5 minutes on Google, as he says. So he says, for all the gender critical accounts who shared hashtag super straight and got it trending, this took 5 minutes on Google. It's a far right troll campaign from 4chan to get you to associate with Nazism. So here's the screenshots that he pulled up, and you can see here that this SS, these
super
the SS bolts is supposed to be representing super straight, but those are also the Nazi SS. That's the Nazi SS symbol right there, right? So this is Nazi insignia here that they're using to actually promote this movement. So I mean it's clear as day, really, right? And so these are screenshots from the 4chan board. If anyone's not familiar with 4chan is the
cesspool,
the bowels of the internet. It is. Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. So this is what, it's an extremely, it's known to be transphobic, homophobic, right wing, hotbed for neo-Nazi discussion.
born, Gamergate, some of like Slash Donald was on there, and like another one of the most just like the worst of the worst places.
Absolutely. So
God.
just absolutely insidious people here. And the comments under it is like trans women are real women is scientifically so trans women are real women is scientifically accurate. If you have to specify trans women out of all women, there is a difference, and if there's a difference, we can have preferences. They are being super straight phobic, so they're trying to, now they're saying, oh, you're super straight phobic if you won't recognize our sexual identity as being super straight.
Hold time out. Before we dive any further into this content and trigger warnings, this is obviously we're reading you shit that Nazis said, so it's gonna be bad.
Absolutely,
very transphobic, very homophobic. Just let's throw that out there now. Their slurs might pop up on screen.
Absolutely.
Big warnings there.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. I should have done that. And so I apologize for not doing that. Absolutely. These are Nazis that are saying this. These are people that self-identify as Nazis here. These are neo-Nazis. These are so to, please keep that in mind as we're reading through these. These are abhorrent people. So they go on, another screenshot here. It says, gay men mutilate themselves to create a pussy so they can be fucked like a girl. No sane man wants to fuck the inverted penis, whole open flesh wound of a man LARPing as a woman. I can't even read through all the rest of this. All right, listen.
This isn't funny. Oh my god.
Yeah. It goes on to say like, Zoomers forced to create new sexuality to conform, even though it's the same as being normal. Normal. They say normal, straight. So I mean, you see the language that they're using here. They say call it super straight. SS, right? We are SS now. And again, using Nazi language right alongside of it. So we are SS now, super straight now. Let's make March SS Pride Month. Sig Heil. All right. So if you have any question about this being a Nazi movement, a neo-Nazi movement, this is, if you're associating with the super straight movement in any way, that's you're being co-opted into this nonsense, right? And the idea, as that dude tried to point out, his claim to being super straight is somebody that is attracted to only women who are assigned female at birth, essentially, like is that's their concept of this. All right, so they go on, so they just SS, here's the SS insignia with the super straight colors. They have their own flag that they're coming out with here.
And it looks like randomly, it looks like Slade from the DC universe, and I don't like that. Slade, I doubt Slade was transphobic. He was better than y'all. Don't fucking associate that man with this as a comic book nerd. I don't like that.
And you can see them now commenting March 7th. So just a couple of days ago, they're commenting in here and they're saying like, here on in this, 4chan board, they say men. They know they're talking to men here, but they're like, men, this is a great day. We've managed to make super straight an actual thing that has made the globo homo panic, but we can make it greater. Introducing the super kek. It's super straight, however, more associated with the right and slash pol, which holds more hatred against trannies. I'm sorry to even use this language. It's disgusting. Basically the extremist super straight, right? So they're like, we're the extremist super straights, right? We're even
Can you show? We're pulling all this from a Pink News article. There's another clip from the 4chan that actually shows them strategizing about pushing this.
Okay. Yep. So let me show you that. Okay. Give me 1 sec. Let me just pull that up. Yep. I got it here.
It's Anti-Fash Gordon.
Yep. Oh, let me just pull that up 1 sec. And so, yeah, this is Anti-Fash Gordon on Twitter here. And you can see where he says, remember, he posted this just 2 days ago. Remember that the hashtag super straight hashtag is an anti-trans op. It was birthed several days ago from 4chan and Kiwi Farms, both noxious holes of anti-trans and disinformation content. Just to quickly make a slight correction, while the super straight, this idea started from this Kyle Royce, on TikTok. It was quickly picked up in the 4chan right wing, 4chan boards and Kiwi Farms, and then that's what really propelled it into the forefront and made it this and created the hashtag and the trend around it. All right, so
there's no proof that Kyle Royce cooperated with 4chan or Kiwi Farms to do this. Everything that happened after with it getting bigger. is because of that.
Absolutely. And that's what they're referring to here. And he says, so if you see it, don't get confused. It's the same anti-trans bullshit the far right consistently pushes. So, and you can see them talking about it here. And they're like, they say, let me see if I can, nope, I can't zoom that in. Sorry anymore for you. Sorry if it's hard to read, but I'll read it for you here. It says, so this is in a 4chan discussion board on /SS super straight general. And so they say, making this thread before the other one hits the bump limit. Goals. So they're saying their goals. Drive a wedge between it's so hard to read this stuff. Like there's so much slurs and like they're saying drive a wedge within LGBT groups, right? I can't read this language. Like it's so disgustingly hateful. Like, so drive a wedge amongst the LGBT communities, right? And like they're saying, I'm sorry, like they're saying with just like straight up slur language. Like it's hard to like, they're not using the nice language that we're using here. All right. Like they're straight up slurs, the F word,
the T word,
so they're like drive a wedge between these different, communities within the LGBT, larger LGBT community. They say red pill Zoomers. Red pilling is to try to, sort of, co-opt people into the right wing to try to pull them over to the right wing. Many times it's meant to be like almost unknowingly to bring them over, like to be red pilled. Oh, I took this red pill. I think it might be a Matrix reference or something like that. But
ironically, it's a Matrix reference, which ironically the directors of our transition, they're trans women. The Matrix is a metaphor. It's all about being transsexual. It is a huge metaphor. That is the even wilder part about them calling that term red pilling, is that one of the Wachowski sisters came out and said afterwards, like, this was actually about like our journey in transition. Like that's the whole thing. So the irony of the concept of red pilling is just wild. That's such a great point. Tiny aside.
Thank you for that. So they go on to say their goals is to use the left's tactics against themselves, call them bigots for not accepting super straights, right? So they're like, we make up this identity and then we'll call them bigots for not accepting our new, made up, sexual orientation. They say then shit post on social media, hit mainstream status. They say hit mainstream status. And so they're saying, we're gonna post this all over social media and then hit it, try to get this mainstreamed. Then they go, what do I do? Spam this shit all over, make memes, retweet SS agents on Twitter, post on every site imaginable. All right. So, this is their goal. Their goal has been from the outset to try to drive a wedge in people on the left and in LGBTQ spaces, and to try to, create some sort of confusion around this all, as well, and co-opt people into like right-wing ideologies and framings. Now, before we get into our discussion, I just want to quickly play a clip of somebody who in all of, I think it took him all of 45 seconds. So in all of 45 seconds, he will completely debunk this nonsensical, just garbage, whatever you want to call it, astroturf movement. This isn't a movement at all. It's a op, this op. All right. So here's his name is That Guy with a Sombrero, all right, on Twitter. And here he is making this clear what this is all about.
Meaning that
let me see. Sorry.
Shout out to that guy, apparently.
Yeah, shout out to
super straight, meaning that you think that men that date trans women are less straight, meaning that trans women are men and therefore not real women, which is not only transphobic but scientifically inaccurate. It's not transphobia, it's my preference. I'm just super straight. That's not a preference. If a white woman says she prefers white guys, that means she dates white guys more often, but black guys aren't off the table. Versus I won't date you because you're black, which means she thinks that there's something inherently wrong with black people, even if she doesn't consciously think so. The exact same thing applies to what you're saying. Also, I think it's really funny you think you're super straight. You like women, but you're excluding an entire group of women. If a plumber only works on shower drains and refuses to work on sinks, we don't call him a super plumber. If anything, you're semi-straight or straight and paired. Maybe I should re-examine my prejudice. Super straight.
All right, so that was,
that's time out. I love this man. I don't know if y'all peeped the All Might action figure he had in the background. So I already knew he was a good dude. Appreciate you. Assuming that that's what you identify as. I'm going to assume that you use he. But yeah, salute.
Yeah, no,
salute.
yeah.
Man,
beautiful stuff, right? And so I mean that's you know, that it doesn't take much more, and not much more needs to be said. But this our initial reaction sort of when we were talking about this initially was this idea, Kwame mentioned the idea like this, preferences versus versus prejudice, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a crucial point. I love the point about them calling themselves super straight. It's like you're actually a limited type of, if you're calling yourself straight, it's more limited. It's if anything, you're just limiting yourself. Shame on sad day for you, right? So
and it always comes from transphobia. I know we talked about it before, but it always does. They can never say any reason that is not debunked elsewhere as a reason why they want to exclude trans women other than transphobia. Like period. Like it's not just the preference, because like I've had this discussion with people and I've had them say, like, oh, I prefer it because I want to start a family someday. So I will only date women. I don't date trans women because I only want people who can have babies. But there are tons of women out there who cannot physically have children. So are they no longer women at that point? Do you also exclude them? Because if you don't exclude them, then you're transphobic. Your preference is wanting to start a family. Not anything else. You just want someone who also wants to start a family. I will never fault you if that's your preference. But that is different than saying, I don't date trans women. Absolutely. And then using that excuse. Like, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah. No, it's really hard. And, it's to try to like, it's a credit to them for trying what isn't a terrible tactic here, of trying to it is a terrible tactic. It's horrendous, but it's like, it can have some effectiveness in trying to, they're trying to use the language of, our languages that we've tried to more inclusive language, things like that, to try to actually, work against those movements. And so it's a sneaky, attempt here. And that's why I felt like it was important enough to call attention to, and to make sure that we, go on record here and say, this is complete and utter bullshit here. It's just transphobic garbage is all it is. And it's,
And we have to be aware, and this is kind of a problem that they have, especially on certain parts of the left, with this ID politic, to a certain degree. There's a certain way where you are opening yourself up to this kind of nonsense. You look at cinema and her trying to hide behind her criticism behind, it being misogyny. And it's like, no, this just shows that there's no substance to a lot of this stuff. This just shows that these people don't even take this stuff seriously, because this dude he thinks you can just create a sexuality out of thin air, because they think they don't respect other sexualities. They think it's all made up. So why not? Why can't I just make one up when it's just not true? If not, like, I could be a Rebecca sexual because I married my wife, and I guess that makes that my preference. Like, are we really gonna play this game? Like, come on, guys. This is so clearly an op. And if you fell for it, or you at all responded positively to this, you need to sit and self-reflect for a while. And because I always say, if I look around and the only other people that have the stance and the feelings that I have are Nazis, I need to reevaluate my fucking stance, man.
Absolutely.
Ooh,
Absolutely.
Boy.
Yeah. And this is a neo-Nazi, op here. This is completely out of the right, alt-right, neo-Nazi movement. Is exactly what this comes directly from them. And any support or whatever, any promotion of this is promoting their, those ideologies. And you have to be very careful, with what you see going around. It's just a ridiculous. I mean, this is some of the sad parts of social media and how things can trend. Yeah. That video that Kyle Royce dude did with this original thing, it had 2 million likes on the video. So there's plenty of sentiment, unfortunately, in this country around stuff like this, but it's all meant to try to drive wedges and divide us up. And I've seen a lot of sort of divisionary tactics being employed recently. I think we're going to do a video soon on some of the different like cancel culture. The right has been all up in a tizzy recently over all these sort of just creating all this faux outrage and inventing all this outrage and then giving themselves something to be mad about. And it's really just meant to distract us from the issues that matter, substantive things that affect people's lives every day. But this stuff is important because it can be harmful. It can perpetuate stereotypes and stigmas and it's just so sad because it's always the straights, like the straights are always like, this is the stupid shit that they. This is why the group Are the Straights Okay exists because we're not okay. This shit has big straight pride energy, straight pride parade energy. It's just like, what are we like, man? We always talk about how like marginalized people are wanting to, or they call marginalized folks snowflakes, but they want to be oppressed more than fucking anybody. Oh my
man.
Dude, these people have these people, the right wing, these right wingers, they have the biggest type of they victim complex like they want to be victims so badly. They want to be seen as victims.
Dude, when I step my editing game up, I would put the dude outside of the gate, the let me in. I would edit that right here because that's all I can think of every time. Like, let me get the oppression, please. Like, come on, guys. Like, what is wrong with y'all? And like you said, it's divide and distract. And not just that. I think another aspect of it is to delegitimize sexualities and the LGBTQ community. It's the same thing that they did when that MAPS nonsense started, and they were trying to push this thing about, they're adding pedophiles and minor attracted people into the LGBT movement. That was never a thing. It was never a thing. Whatever they can say to delegitimize, they will. It's all mockery. This is like the same, brought to you by people who are still using "I identify as" jokes in 2021. Same energy.
Yeah, and and we're too we're two cis men, talking about this issue. I think it's important still to talk about these issues, whether you are, necessarily a part of a community or not. It's in fact incumbent. Like I tell white people all the time, like, check your people, get your people, right? You got to collect your people, right? And so I think this is one of the times where it's like, we need to collect our people here as, as like, cis people, straight people, like, and I'm trans inclusive in my dating. Like, I'm proudly date trans women and so I am not super straight by any measure and do not want to ever be associated with any kind of nonsense like that, but so maybe I have some right to talk. Maybe that means I don't have a right to talk on this according to these people, but like I just think that it's important to like to call this out as cis folks, to say like, this is our people, especially, someone I've identified as straight, but I honestly, and this is the thing, it's like with the straight shit, it's just like, I look forward to the day that we're able to move beyond it. I know we're not there yet, like I look forward to the day that we're it's a post-racial society, where racism doesn't matter and race doesn't actually matter. But we know that sadly, as it exists today, race does matter, right? Race does factor into many things in our daily lives. And so as much as we want it to not exist, it does exist, right? And so I think the same is true. I think that there have been prior societies that I've read about and seen described where the concept of gender, it just wasn't as it didn't need to be so rigidly defined, right? Gender is fluid, sexuality is fluid. These things are fluid, and trying to to try to pigeonhole everyone into a certain box, I think, is an exercise in futility. I just think that we'll be in a better place when we're finally able to move beyond that. But in the interim, until we get to that place, we do have to accept that it does matter to people to be able to. I went through a process of trying to explore my own sexuality and try to better understand my own sexuality, and to see, because it felt like you want to be able to define it in a way, right? To be able to say explicitly, and in a way, it's just about making it. One of the things is just sort of figuring out who you are, kind of thing that we always, we all sort of wrestle with and grapple with as human beings. And then the other part is just like to be able to have a language to speak around it, right? To be able to say explicitly, hey, this is my, you know, sort of preferences sort of thing, you know, because, and that's the other thing that I've had to reckon with and grappling with this is like, you know, how I define, you know, straight, you know, people's identities. Like, I don't even like, I look forward to the day that we get to the point where people like, you know, I don't care what the, you know, the gender is, what, you know, in like, I'll know.
I want these labels only enough that we can celebrate them together, like where I can join you and we can like through this shared connection of this, like us both as Black people, we can appreciate this, but I don't want any of the other baggage or bullshit that comes with it. And the only reason like I care about labels so much right now is because like trans people, gay people, a lot of these people weren't able to express themselves and be their true selves for so long that now that they have something that they may not, there are a lot of people who didn't know that they were trans because it just wasn't a concept when they were growing up, you know? Yep. And they're only now discovering these things about themselves. And so like, if they want to be loud and proud about that and broadcast it, that's super dope. And I love seeing that. You know, but like you said, the end goal is like when we're all equal across the board, then like we can be someplace where that stuff doesn't matter, but we're not in that world. So it does matter. So like any attempt to delegitimize it is a non-starter for me, bro. Yep. So like, I'll like, if you rock with this type of stuff, like, you know what it is. Like you don't rock with me, period. Like, and that's just what it is. And again, like, if for anyone that missed the clip, like just to recircle back around for anybody who's showing up to this late and is saying like, hey, I just have a preference, because so many people hide behind preferences. Preferences are not exclusions. They are what you prefer to have. All right. If you prefer to date white women or Hispanic men or Asian men, that means more often than not, you will date those people. If you say you do not date someone, you are excluding them, and that is a prejudice. It's real simple. It's real cut and dry. Yeah. Like, man, like, come on, guys. Like, how are we still trying this?
Yeah. And as we were talking earlier, and like, this is a, you know, some thoughts that I have are like 100% thoughts. I've thought through them. I've reflected on them. I have a solid, you know, opinion on it. This thing I'm about to say is maybe more of a 10% thought that maybe I shouldn't even be thinking aloud. Maybe I should just shut the hell up and not think stuff out loud right now. I'm going to question myself right now as I do this. But, you know, I think that, and maybe you can help me to clarify this, because I think that this is a point in this, like, you know, if I'm someone that says like, you know, is it to play a bit devil's advocate, I guess, here, you know, and you can help me debunk this. Like, if someone identifies as gay, and they say, you know, it's a gay man, say, and they identify as gay, and they say, I'm attracted to, you know, I'm attracted to other men. That's my sexual, you know, preference. Does that make them, you know, somehow prejudiced to say, I don't, you know, I'm not, you know, attracted to women? Is that
no? So the difference is where, as far as trans people are concerned, trans women are women, trans men are men. If you date women and you don't date trans women, your problem is with trans women. And that's what makes it exclusive. Like, it's like, because you can't, no one's gonna force someone to go with the opposite gender if they like a gender, you know, like if you like women, no one's going to force you to be with a man, but trans women are women. So you should like them. Yeah. And that's the thing. And it gets even more complicated because like, and it all is kind of nonsense, because as we know, like, you can have one sexuality or identify as one thing, and your genitals could be that of something else. You know, they could be, you could have different genitals to what, like, I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this, you know, but there are women who may not have transitioned yet who have a penis. And so like, it's like,
or don't want to transition,
or don't want to transition, and are still, they're still valid. They're still women. So like,
absolutely.
The real thing, I think, is like, we should have these labels insofar as much as to signal to someone that you're available so they can come date you, but we shouldn't hang our hats on a lot of this shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
a,
that
like
makes
a lot of this is so fucking fluid, and we're changing it all as we learn more. I mean, words are fluid,
no,
science is fluid.
I think no, and I think that I've realized now, like as you're saying this, like I think I get it, and I realize now, like you know, because I just wanted to make sure, like, because I think that that's the kind of thought process that, like,
Yeah.
and again, it's just this shit that's like ingrained in us and stuck in our brains, you know. But I think, and to your point, you know, that it's one thing, like when you're trying to, you know, with this, what's particular about this is that to say I date, you know, to say I'm super straight and therefore I date only, you know, I don't date trans, you know, a trans person. I only date, you know, someone that was born, you know, in you know, still identifies as the opposite gender. I think that the issue there is that, or at least in my view of it now, is that when you're saying, hey, I prefer, you know, I prefer, you know, a gay man says I prefer men, I think that is, you're not diminishing anyone's identity, right? You're not saying, what you're saying is, okay, I prefer men, and men are men, and those men would see themselves as men, and they identify as men, and that's totally fine, because we're talking in terms, all the terms that are being used and all the language that is being used is all accepted by the groups that they
Yes.
you know, describe, right? I think when you say I'm super straight, and so therefore I don't date trans women, like this guy said in the beginning, you know, the guy who started
he doesn't consider
they're
them
not
normal
real women, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the issue comes in here, is that it's like you're inherently in this this concept of super straight, is that it's saying that you know, if, because to say straight means I'm attracted to people of the opposite gender, you know, the opposite gender in this binary way. Obviously, this conversation really breaks down for all these super straight folks when you really start to mix in non-binary folks into it, you know, then it really breaks down on them. But I think that what it does, the issue with it, is that it inherently says, no, people that I have identified a certain way, that we all, you know, that we as a civil society have agreed that this is the way, that the correct way to identify these folks, that in this concept of being super straight, it inherently says, no, you're not what you say you are, you know, and I'm taking that away from you. You're not you know, you're not a woman, you know, because I'm, you know, as a straight person, I'm not, you know, I'm not attracted to you. You're not a real woman, and or, you know, you're not a real man. And so I think that that's part that, and I'm not saying it the best, you know, to the best way that I can right now. So I hope that the concept comes across correctly. But
no, I think what you're saying makes total sense. It's a delegitimizing of that person's ability to identify as themselves. Like, no, you're wrong on that. You're still a man, and I don't like men. Like, it's that kind of nonsense. It really is just like mind blowing that we're still, you know, having these issues. But again, like we'll hopefully move past this eventually one day, because this all is it's all such, like, just let people live and be who they want to be and identify as what they want to, like,
and you'll be
it's literally
you're attracted to.
Yeah.
And this is all just for people to be able to, you know, to try to put people, you know, fit people into all these different boxes. And I just think that when we talk about fluidity, we have to eventually acknowledge that it's like, you know, people just don't fit cleanly into one box or another. And it's really sad. This is a really sad, pathetic thing out of the straights, right? Who feel like they gotta like hold on. Let's be real. It's gonna be primarily, I would be willing to bet, you know, all, you know, what the life savings I don't have on the fact that this is a primarily male, you know, like this is gonna be men that are doing this shit. Like men are,
a couple TERFs are super happy. TERFs are super happy right now.
Yep. So cis men, the TERFs, you know, are absolutely like you're gonna get the you know, folks like that are sort of just inherently hateful sort of folks. And it's just like a sad, it's more of this like, you know, part of it seems born out of like the toxic masculinity, a need to hold on to this idea of like, I'm straight and I just got to hold on to that word and that feeling, and like it's got to mean something. And it's, oh man, yeah, I don't know, it's a really sad day for these folks, and just didn't want to let it go unchecked.
Yeah, we had to check this fucking dude. And if, you know, we have anybody out in the audience, anybody from the community that has any thoughts or comments, feel free to reach out. Would love to have you on the show, and we can talk about it a little bit more. I mean, you know, like, again, because, you know, you tune in and see two cisgender dudes having the conversation, but like we also said, like, we are the ones should like trans people shouldn't have to come out and fight this fight or debunk this shit. Like that, like y'all fight enough. Like we'll handle our fellow cis, our fellow
moronic
like,
ass.
yeah,
like,
don't trouble
like,
yourself. Like
yeah.
Yeah. We will come collect these goofy motherfuckers.
Yeah, exactly. And like, hopefully, I have a good feeling that this is going to, you know, be ended just as quickly as it started, because I think people caught on really quickly, identified it as a neo-Nazi movement, and have completely, you know, it's already being debunked by folks on the left repeatedly. And so I think that hopefully, you know, with actions like these, we just completely dismantle this foolishness right out of the gate and don't let it spread any further than it already has. It does stand a chance to fool some, you know, older folks, I think, into it, and, you know, and co-op some of the younger generation that want to still, you know, they're already transphobic, you know, folks that are just attaching themselves onto this trend here. And so, do we have any comments that we wanted to get through? All right. Give me 1 sec. We'll just pull up some of the comments here. Thank you to everyone for joining us, by the way. Please hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Share this out on social media and help us spread the word.
If you're not subscribed onto the other channel from the one you're watching this on, go over there and subscribe. If you're on Raise Fist Media, go holler at Radical Democracy. Like, share, and subscribe on my brother over here.
Yep. Appreciate that. And same right back at you, Kwame, on Raise Fist Media. So check Kwame out and give him a sub as well, folks. And you can always support us on Coffee and on Patreon. But you know, support support whoever you can, if you can afford to. Tammy says straight cis men will literally fuck a plastic blow-up doll or a sponge in a cup, DIY fleshlight. So don't lie about no man wants to fuck a ... You know, like like exactly, like seriously, like who are we kidding ourselves, right? Like
real,
you know, apple pies, whatever the fuck they can get their dick in, right? Like who are we kidding here, right? So great point. Thank you. Little Miss Maya says, thank you for not saying the slurs. Yeah, I'm sorry that we even had to put them on screen. It didn't have time to like blank everything out like I should. I just want, you know, people to also see the full context of the hateful type of rhetoric that's being attached to this, you know, op here, and to let people know that they should not be associating with this. Tammy also points out what Kwame mentioned, that jokes on them, the writers / creators of the Matrix are trans sisters. Yeah, which is hilarious about that whole red pill situation. Sedalia Silva says it's so funny because Pornhub reports that one of its most popular genres is that which includes trans identifying people, but research supports self-reports of interest in trans individuals is 3%. Yeah, so one of the most popular genres on Pornhub, you know, is trans identifying folks. So, you know, folks are just like, you know, they're people aren't admitting, and a lot of this, I think, you know, it stems out of this sort of like, that these people are you know, I don't want to give that to them, but like,
yeah, I always get so like in between, because like I hate that trope that often is true, that every Republican is a closeted gay and is a closeted homosexual, and that's why they're so anti-gay, or like it does happen a ton, and I feel like that gives them almost some smoke screen to it.
Yeah,
so I don't want to say
that's why I hesitated.
But I feel like there are some of them out there who are like they have to hate it and keep it away from them, because they know if they're even tempted just a little bit, they go and jump.
Yeah, but also, I think they like to talk about the stuff. They want to talk about this sort of stuff. You know, if you really didn't get, you just like not engage. You know, but these people, they want to find an excuse to you know, look, to pay attention to something, to be immersed in that sort of you know, stuff. And so I wouldn't shock me, you know, that a lot of this is just like a pent up rage about how they are not able to, they're not yet, you know, whatever. You're right. I'm always hesitant about it because I don't want to give them that in
any smoke screen, but
whatsoever.
It feels it tinkles in that spot.
So great point, Sedalia. I totally, you know, it's great point. Absolutely. Solicious 47 says one of the biggest problems is how the right has created an echo chamber so loud they have shut down their own actual media. That is wild. That like they've found a way around like their own like Fox News and such. But they absolutely are in this massive echo chamber, and they, unfortunately, that's just what we have to reckon with, that there's a subset of our country that this is what they're focused on. And we try to call out these issues, but also, draw people's attention to issues where people are able to sort of fight and try to gain material benefits for marginalized people all around the country and the world. And so we just have to kind of I think it is incumbent on us to at least call this stuff out, make it known, go on the record, say this, denounce this kind of nonsense, and say, you shouldn't associate with this in any way, and then to move along and to try to, push forward and focus on the issues that matter. Because I think that by and large, I've seen a lot of these sort of divisive sort of cultural, attempts at starting culture wars being pushed by the right wing right now. And I think that it's not a coincidence that this is happening right around the same time that there's this massive push in the, in Congress or not in Congress, but a massive push against Congress to try to enact a $15 minimum wage and this COVID relief bill that's happening right now. And this is the last bit of help that we're going to get to a lot of people for the next 6 months at least, until October. Essentially, there's not going to be another major piece of legislation passed in this country. And so I just think that this type of stuff is made to distract people from issues that really matter and that actually affect people, because it's much easier to get people to, and the powers that be, right? They'd rather have people sitting down, all the people at the bottom fighting over, shit that's not, doesn't really matter and isn't real, than to focus on issues that they could actually work on that might change something serious and significant and actually upend and uproot the oppressive system that we live under. So I think sadly this stuff feeds right into sort of capitalist, goals of just oppressing the working class and keeping us distracted from things that matter, and to try to do it by outraging people so much that they can't focus on the other issues, right? So we should be outraged at nonsense like this, and we should have outrage at this. We should express that outrage, and then we just don't dwell on it, right? You won't see us be doing a 50 segments on this. We just thought it was worth doing a segment on to, because it's trending right now on social media, and it deserves to be called out.
Yeah, this is one of those things where this is probably it, unless some major development pops up. This is the last one that we should be covering. This. Yeah. If this ever comes up again, come find this video.
Yeah. So Licious was saying that they think that one of Kwame's statements might have been wrong. That one of Kwame's statements might not have been entirely true. That it implies that someone is using proper pronouns. I mean, they could mean something more than they say. I don't quite understand.
Yeah, sorry. I wish I caught that comment a little sooner. I'm trying to think of which statement it could
Yeah. So I apologize. Those are hard to keep up with. And I see Solicious, mentioning that we're out of sync here a little bit. So I apologize. We're not quite sure exactly what.
Yeah, if you can clarify, I'll definitely.
Yeah. Let us know if there's anything that we that you feel like we messed up on, or that we didn't get right. Please let us know, and we'll try to correct the record right here, right now, so we don't provide anyone with any kind of disinformation or anything like that.
Yeah.
So Licious 47 says, I'm sorry, my comments are going to be addressed later than I intended. I was responding live, so if they offend anyone, I'm sorry. I was trying to comment live. No offense taken at all. No. Yeah, we're just trying
I'm not trans, and I'm still very much learning as far as the way to phrase certain things. So sometimes I may misspeak or use some, I've had trans friends call I don't want to say call me out so much as gently remind me of phrasing something an incorrect way or a problematic way. So I'm always open to any feedback at all. I may have missaid something, or I really might have said something that might not entirely be true. So feel free to always, educate and
let
update.
us know.
Never take offense to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we'll start to wrap things here. We went a little bit beyond the 30 minutes that we had planned for. We're approaching 45 here. If anyone has any, Mark McKeever, shout out to Mark McKeever, one of our supporters on Patreon. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate you always. Mark McKeever says, so I asked an old timer about categorizing as Whoa, let me start that over. Mark McKeever says, so I asked an old timer about categorizing people as, quote, the first Black QB or, quote, the first Black best actor is proper, and why is race so important? He said that being a kid from the 50s and 60s, it is a pride thing, and that it was important. I learned a lot from him. Same goes for labels for sexuality. Yeah, so I think it's a similar thing in that, like, it matters because they constructed, socially constructed these things to matter to people, and now whether we want them to or not, they do matter, right? And representation and the symbolism of that does matter.
And not just that, even more so to the point of that comment, a lot of marginalized people have not been allowed to be proud in being Black, proud in being Asian, proud in being trans, gay, lesbian for so long because of the society that we've lived in, that of course they're going to take pride in it now that we're moving in a more accepting direction where you don't have to fear for your life for being openly gay or for being trans or for being Asian or indigenous or Black, So yeah, I totally agree and see why it matters and why it is important.
Yeah.
And a matter of pride.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally think it's fair, and we're not at a place where we can ignore these things and these constructs, and so it is totally valid for someone to want to identify a certain way, just to have an explicit way to describe themselves, because the erasure of the past, how many years of in their entire lives. So yeah, I'm totally in favor of that sort of ability for people to identify
and camaraderie,
Yeah.
like realizing that once you are able to qualify who you are and then see that there are other people who qualify the same way, you realize that you're not alone in how you feel, which in a world that didn't talk about certain things, it's very easy to feel like you're alone in feeling certain ways.
Yeah. And if we didn't make people have to feel so alone, and like we could, if we didn't create a culture where it was seen as such a bad thing to be unique in a way, like it would be fine, but we created a culture where it's so frightening to feel like you're all alone there, because you feel like if I'm not the same way as someone else, then other people won't accept me for the way that I am. And we've done that to people, we've made it that way, right? We've done that to people over and over and over throughout history, of saying, well, if you don't fit into this box, this nice, clean, neat box that we've set out, then you're different and you're pushed to the margins.
That's the other part of snowflake that people tend to forget. They think it's snowflake because they melt easily under heat or pressure, but also you think you're a special little snowflake because snowflakes are individuals. That's the other aspect of the ridiculing people with the term snowflake that I feel like people tend to forget.
And from the left,
individuality.
Exactly, and that was the point I was going to make, is that from a left perspective, I think that we often talk about, and on the left we'll talk about things like collectivism, right, and the importance of collectivism, and we talk about the danger of things like this, with under capitalism, it's that concept of like rugged individuality, right, like you're all on your own, right, you're an individual, you're all on your own, right, and I think that Cornel West speaks about this really well, and what he says is that there's a difference in we can embrace on the left, and we can and should embrace, as socialists, as leftists, we should embrace individuality without embracing individualism, right? Like people should be entitled to their individuality and their uniqueness as a person, right? Like we should embrace that, celebrate it, and celebrate that. Absolutely.
That's why I don't prescribe to color blindness. Like, I love being Black. I'm proud to be Black. I'm proud of my West Indian heritage, and I want to be able to celebrate that. I don't want to erase all culture and race and just like have some like one like we're all the same blob. I want it's just like when you try to oppress people because of their race, or you try to take some form of superiority because of your own category. That's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Always going to be my problem with labels. I love them when they can bring us together, but when you use them to put us apart, that's nah.
Yeah. And I apologize. I said rugged individuality. I, of course, meant rugged individualism. In this idea of like, oh, you're all on your own, and it's all about like pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You're on your own. That sort of mentality versus like embracing the uniqueness of every different individual and allowing that to just be something that we celebrate without people having to feel, marginalized and cast aside by society simply because they're different. So we can, I think that it should be a celebration, not the way that we treat it. And unfortunately, because of the way we treat it, it's totally valid for someone to want to try to, identify and have an explicit way to identify so that they can find some sort of solidarity in that group. And all right. So any other comments that we want to get to? Tammy says, saying you're super straight because you're into, quote, real women and that's not transphobic is automatically transphobic because you're saying trans women aren't real women. Exactly. Like that was like that's when I watched the video, like we were geared up to do this thing before we watched the full clip of his video, and then I watched the full clip of the video and was just like, is this even work? Like, it's so
how is this
so
working?
ridiculous on its face that I couldn't even believe that this could get anywhere. But I think that sadly it's sort of detached itself from his original, video, and they've run this op is sort of they've run with it in a way, and they're trying to sort of it's so on its face transphobic. The dude literally says, real women, and so like I like real women, whatever the hell, and can't define what a real woman is really. But in how he sees it, apparently to him, a real woman is someone that's assigned female at birth and then maintains that gender identity throughout the rest of their life, and that is inherently transphobic to say that a person that transitions and transitions into and becomes a trans woman or is a trans woman that they are not they're not a, quote, real woman is just inherently transphobic, right? I think that it squares with all of our language, and we have to. I think that's all I got to say about that. All right. So, any last thoughts before we? Tammy says genitalia preference is real and valid, but transphobes don't acknowledge that because they're too focused on invalidating and wishing violence on trans folks.
I never understood this. Like, these people fight on this preference shit hard. No one is good. No one's holding a gun to your head saying you have to date a trans woman. The way that y'all funky asses act, I don't think trans women will even want you, buddy. You're lucky if anyone wants you, buddy. So like you can pump the brakes. These are like the dudes who are like super homophobic, and they're like, "Nah, I'm worried about dudes hitting on me," and it's like, you need to worry about anyone hitting on you, period, fam. You are fucked up. You would be lucky to have someone hit on you.
It's always those folks. It's like, always them.
I never understand it. Like, dude, you got shit stains in your drawers. Like, how are you over here talking about anybody hitting on? Get out.
Tammy goes on to say, she says, and there's automatic assumption that what genitals a trans person has. You don't know what genitals anyone has unless they tell or show you, right? And so this idea that like that it's like you just don't, and you don't know what situation somebody's. So it's ridiculous, like people there are trans people that have the the genitals that that it's so frustrating that so you just don't know that. You don't have that information. Absolutely correct, Tammy. So, and she says, if you're so against trans people, then the onus isn't on them to, quote, come out to you or owe you an explanation of their genitals either. Yeah, absolutely. If you care so much, then you, the cis person, should just ask about their genitals or tell them you do the work so they don't risk their lives over it. And I think that and X says hit the like button. Absolutely. Thank you so much, X. Shout out.
Smash that like button.
Absolutely. So thank you to everyone for all the comments, and this is something that I hope that we don't have to deal with much longer. So I hope that this nonsense dies quickly. Silicious, I think clarified for us. So Silicious 47 says, my thought for that comment was if someone not you was using the word woman, girl, female, and not taking into account the trans community, or an older generation cis male not being properly educated on the modern usage of pronouns without meaning offense. Yes, like it's easy to misuse a word and not mean offense when for decades it has been common usage. Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. Like people that are just simply ignorant about the issue. There's a big difference between people that are simply ignorant on an issue and sort of would passively agree with you, right? They don't know that they agree with you, but they just haven't engaged on the issue yet. I think that that's totally fair and understandable. It's when you explain to someone and then they still try to, you know, hold that position and defend that position. That's when it becomes an issue. Is like, okay, well, you've had this explained to you, and you're still fighting against it.
You're doubling down. Like at that point, no.
So I don't, you know, if somebody misuses a word, I do not think that is like inherently makes them like transphobic or anything like that. If it's truly a misuse of that, it's simply ignorance is unacceptable.
Real quick, I just gotta, because I peeped this in the video, and like this always happens anytime someone says, because he said in that video that when I say I only like normal women, they always call me transphobic. No, dude. They're calling you transphobic because you're using transphobic language, fam. Like it's you. God damn it. God damn it, my guy. It's not just because you say that you like women that doesn't make you transphobic. It's everything else, literally every other part of the sentence that made you transphobic. That's why they're calling you out. This is like the people who say like, oh, they called me a racist because they didn't agree with me. And then it's like, well, what did you say? And then they tell you like, oh, you know, that was racist though. It's not because they didn't agree with you. It's because what you said was racist. Yeah. The same thing Tammy said, buddy, you was your explanation and reasoning was transphobic. I'm sorry to go over it. It just hit me in a wave again of how garbage that man's video was.
Yeah, absolutely. That was bad. It's sad that, you know, it's spawned into this thing, but you know, I do think that this one will be very easy to debunk and to call out and to make sure. I just want to make sure that it gets associated with the neo-Nazi movement that it was spawned out of, and that people recognize it for what it is, and do not let this go any further than it already has. You know, in trending, and make sure that we're doing our work to show solidarity with all communities and all of our comrades everywhere, and make sure that we're, you know, doing what we can to try to fight back against this type of garbage misinformation. So Delicious 47 says, agree, we need education, but I think people are in the echo chamber of the right wing. I think the echo chamber of the right wing prevents proper education. And I think that we all have to recognize, you know, social media puts us all into a bit of an echo chamber often because of all of the algorithms that they use. They often try to shove us all into these echo chambers, and so it's really incumbent on all of us try to step outside of those echo chambers and you know, have a healthy media diet, right? Like you should be consuming you don't have to. I'm not saying go consume right-wing media, absolutely not. You should not be, you know, but you can have a healthy diet of multiple sources of left-wing media so that you can get a broad range of opinions and views, and then, you know, listen to those and then draw your own conclusions, right? Nobody should be thinking for you. You should be drawing your own conclusions out of this. That's what having media literacy is about knowing how to consume media and to process it, and then to be able to come to your own conclusions out of it. And we all have to, you know, that's the work that we all have to do. And so, I'm
not telling you to go watch Ben Shapiro videos unless you're planning on doing a takedown on them.
Exactly.
My version of watching right-wing media is turning on CNN. That's about as right-wing.
Yeah, exactly. That's as far to the right as I need to get. It's like CNN, MSNBC. That's as far to the right as I need to deal with, you know? Absolutely. X says, you guys are right on. Thanks for going through this to explain and lay it out. Appreciate that, X. Always appreciate that. Always appreciate you. Man. Yeah. All right, I think that's that. I think that we've set our part, said what we had to say. We will, you know, hopefully you won't see us having to talk about this again, because hopefully this thing dies right where it is right now. But we'll keep an eye out on it. If it grows into anything further, we will certainly be back on it, making sure that we debunk this nonsense and keep this from spreading, this kind of hateful stuff from spreading any further than it already has. All right. Any last thoughts, Kwame, before we wrap this?
Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And if you at all can definitely support the show, but you know, to spite these super straight bastards, if you can support, send $1 or $2 to a local community group that's helping trans youth and marginalized people in your
Yes,
community.
yes.
Please,
Yeah.
whenever we see some shit like this, like if we're gonna pay it any mind at all, like follow it up by putting at least $1 or $2 towards someone who's making a real difference in these people's lives.
Absolutely. I was going to try to say that earlier, and then I just didn't know off the top of my head any organizations to promote specifically. But that's a great point. Like, find them, like go out there, find the organizations, do the research, find the organizations. I apologize. I should have done a little bit of legwork and at least had one to recommend, to suggest a place that you can contribute to try to, combat some of this nonsense. But there's absolutely organizations helping. We recently covered one, a Queer the Land in Seattle, Washington, just purchased a home for queer, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and so check them out, support, throw them a few. But I'm sure they could use all the help. They're doing real work cooperatively, building cooperative mechanisms, democratic cooperative mechanisms in order to combat the inherent racism and transphobia, homophobia, queerphobia in capitalism, xenophobia of it all. So, check them out, Queer the Land, and I'm sure there are many, many others that you can look to support in a time like this. And so I it's a great idea whenever they are, people are trying to do nonsense like this, use it as motivation to just put more support behind these groups and to support our comrades, across the board, whoever they might be. So thank you. Yeah, that's a great point, Kwame, and absolutely second that notion. Please do so if you can afford to. Just drop a dollar, a few dollars, or just some words of support to one of those groups or organizations that are doing the real work to protect and help marginalized folks and queer, trans, and gay folks. All right. Fuck the super straights. All right. Mark McKeever says, this white straight dude loves you both. Keep doing the great job that you're doing. Love you too, Mark, and appreciate you deeply. Yeah, nothing but love. All right. So that's that. All right, y'all. I think that we can wrap up. Does my producer give me the thumbs up to wrap? Yep. Producer says we can wrap. All right, y'all. Peace.